So you're thinking about studying, working, or maybe even starting a new life in another country. Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to break down a test that can be your ticket to those dreams, the IELTS.
Let's get right into it. At its core, you gotta think of the IELTS as more than just a test. It's a key. It's all about proving you have the English skills you need to succeed, whether that's in a university lecture hall or a new workplace overseas.
And when we say it's trusted, we mean it. We are talking about over 12,500 organizations all around the world. Universities, companies, even governments that see an IELTS score and know exactly what you're capable of. That's a huge network of recognition. So here's our game plan. We're going to cover why this test is such a gateway, help you figure out which version is right for you, take a peek inside all 4 sections, crack the code on the scoring, and then finish up with some killer tips for success. Okay, first things first. Before you even think about studying, you have to make a big decision. The IELTS isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. Choosing between the academic and the general training test is your first and most critical step. And honestly, it boils down to this. What's your goal? Are you aiming for a university degree? Or maybe you need to get professionally registered as a doctor or an engineer. Then the academic test is for you. For pretty much everything else, work, training programs, or moving to a new country, you'll be taking the general training test. Your goal picks the test for you.
Now, here's something interesting. No matter which path you're on, everyone takes the exact same listening and speaking tests. Where things really change is in the reading and writing sections. That's where the test is tailored specifically for either an academic or an everyday context. And this table just lays it all out perfectly. If you're taking the academic test, you'll be reading some pretty dense texts from journals and books, and you'll have to analyze a chart or a graph for your first writing task. On the other hand, the general training reading is more practical. Think ads or work manuals, and your first writing task is to write a letter for a real-world situation. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What does test day actually look like? We're going to walk through the whole 2 hours and 45 minutes, so you know exactly what's coming. So here's the rundown. You'll do listening, reading, and writing all in one sitting, with no breaks in between. The speaking test is a little different. It's usually separate. It could be on the same day, or sometimes a few days before or after the main test. First up, you've got the listening section. You'll hear 4 different recordings ranging from casual chats to university lectures. The catch? You only get to hear each one once. That's it. So you have to be laser focused. Next, it's on to reading. You've got 1 hour, just 60 minutes, to get through 3 long passages and answer 40 questions. Time management is everything here. You can't afford to get stuck on one question. Make your best guess and move on. Then you roll right into the writing section. Again, 60 minutes, but this time for 2 separate tasks. Now listen up, because this is important. Task 2, the essay, is worth more marks than task 1. So a good strategy is to spend about 40 minutes on the essay and 20 minutes on the first task. And finally, this speaking test. This isn't with a computer. It's a real one-on-one chat with a certified examiner that lasts about 11 to 14 minutes. It moves from simple questions about you and your life to discussing more complex ideas. All right, you've made it through the test. The hard part's over. So now what? Let's talk about the scores, or bands, so you can understand what your results really mean. Your score is given on this 9-band scale. A band 9 means you're an expert user. You've basically mastered the language. For most universities and employers, though, the magic number is usually somewhere in that 6 to 7.5 range, which is considered competent to good. So how do they calculate that final overall score? It's actually pretty simple. You get a score for each of the 4 sections, right? They just add those 4 scores together, divide by 4 to get the average, and then round that number to the nearest half band, like a 0.5 or a whole number. Let's look at how that rounding actually works, because it's important. Check out test taker A. Their average score is 6.25. The rule is to round that up, so they get a 6.5. Now look at test taker C. Their average is 6.125. That rounds down to a 6.0. So those little quarter points really matter. And now for the part you've probably been waiting for. We've got some absolute gold standard tips from the experts to help you go in there and ace this thing on test day. This is a huge one for the speaking test. The examiner can't give you a good score if you don't give them enough to work with. So when they ask you a question, don't just give a one-word answer. Extend it. Give a reason, share an example, show them what you can do. We all do it when we're nervous, right? We use those little filler words like and ah. In the speaking test, you really want to try to cut those out. They can make you sound hesitant or less fluent than you actually are. So what do you do if you need a second to think? Easy. Use one of these phrases instead. Saying, "That's an interesting question," sounds thoughtful and fluent. It buys you a few seconds to organize your thoughts, and it sounds way better than, Okay, I cannot stress this enough. Please do not memorize answers for the speaking test. The examiners are trained professionals. They can spot a rehearsed speech a mile away. It sounds unnatural, and it might not even answer the question they asked. This will absolutely lower your score. And here's a final, simple tip that works wonders. Just smile. Seriously, it actually relaxes you. And physically, it helps your pronunciation because it opens your mouth and makes your speech clearer. Plus, it makes the whole conversation feel friendlier and more natural. So there you have it. We've covered the why, the what, and the how of the IELTS test. You've got the roadmap. The only question left is, what's the very first step you're going to take to start preparing for your journey?